This claim was denied. At least, that's what the letter said. Because over the next 6 weeks, the insurance company kept investigating it. Claim autopsy. By the end of this review, you'll know exactly what happens when a claim file's own documents stop agreeing with each other, and why that matters more than who was right. Before we begin, every claim autopsy follows the same standard of review. We evaluate the claim file, not the people. We examine the documented evidence, not speculation. And every conclusion must be supported by the record available for review. If additional evidence exists outside the file, our assessment may change. Let's start with the file intake. Loss type: plumbing-related water damage, single-family home. Date reported: March. Coverage position: denied. Documents reviewed: a denial letter, a reservation of rights, a sworn proof of loss request, and an independent estimate. Question presented: if this claim was fully denied, why did the file keep moving? Here's the chronology. In March, a full denial letter is issued, citing a maintenance-related exclusion. Weeks later, a reservation of rights letter arrives. Shortly after that, a sworn proof of loss is requested. Then, the homeowner's independent estimate is disputed on value. 4 documents. One question sitting underneath all of them. Does this file actually know what its own position is? In about a minute, you're going to see the document that should have ended this claim, and the document that came right after it, which shouldn't exist if the first one meant what it said. Exhibit A, the denial letter. It cites a maintenance-related exclusion, and it's written like a final decision. No reservation, no conditional language. Coverage position: denied. Let's lock that into the record. Exhibit B, several weeks later, a reservation of rights letter. Interesting. A reservation of rights preserves a carrier's right to reach a future coverage determination while its investigation continues, which raises an obvious question. Why preserve a future coverage position if one has already been reached? That doesn't prove anything by itself, but it raises a question, and questions are where claim autopsy begins. If you're enjoying this kind of evidence-based claim review, subscribe. Every week, we place another property insurance claim file under this same kind of forensic review. Now back to the file, because Exhibit B isn't the strangest document in this file. Exhibit C, shortly after the reservation of rights letter, a request for a sworn proof of loss. Now sit with that for a second. A sworn proof of loss is a formal sworn demand tied directly to a coverage evaluation. It's not a routine file closing formality. Carriers ask for this when a claim is still actively being evaluated for payment. So by Exhibit C, this file has a full denial, followed by a letter preserving the right to still deny it later, followed by a formal demand that only makes sense if coverage is still on the table. That's 3 documents that don't sound like they're describing the same decision. Exhibit D, the homeowner's independent estimate arrives and gets disputed, not on coverage, but on value, which means somewhere between Exhibit A and Exhibit D, this file stopped being about whether the loss was covered and became instead an argument about a number. Nobody wrote down when that shift happened or why. So which of these documents is actually telling the truth about this file's real position? There are 3 possible answers, and only one of them survives what's actually in the record. Explanation 1. The claim was administratively reopened, and the file just doesn't reflect that anywhere. Explanation 2. The denial stood the entire time, and the later documents were routine file closing requests, unrelated to coverage. Explanation 3. The file's position shifted internally over those 6 weeks, without anyone documenting why. Before we lean toward Explanation 3, we owe Explanation 2 a real look. It's the most charitable read of this file, and we have to test it before we set it aside. If these were routine coverage-unrelated requests, there should be internal notes saying so. We looked. There aren't any in the available record. If this kind of claim review is changing how you think about your own policy or your own claim, take 2 seconds and hit like. It tells YouTube these conversations matter, and it helps more homeowners find this. Now let's stress test what's left. Here's the test. If the denial in Exhibit A was really this file's final position, then nothing after it should look like an active coverage evaluation. Does Exhibit B survive that test? No. A reservation of rights only exists during an active evaluation. Does Exhibit C survive it? No. A sworn proof of loss demand is a coverage tool, not a formality. Two documents in a row that shouldn't exist if Exhibit A was really the end of the story. That's not proof of anything by itself. It's a pattern. One exhibit proves very little. Patterns are where claims begin to explain themselves. So after 4 exhibits, one honest question is left, and it's the one this whole review has been building toward. The reopened claim explanation doesn't survive. There's no reopening notice anywhere in the file. The routine request explanation doesn't survive either. Nothing in the record supports it once you line up the dates. What's left is the third explanation. The file's coverage position shifted over roughly 6 weeks, without a documented reason connecting the shift. Final assessment. This is a narrative consistency problem. It is not, on this record, a finding that anyone acted in bad faith. Confidence in this assessment, moderate. Based on the available record, the denial letter, the reservation of rights, and the proof of loss request are all documented. The internal notes that would explain the shift, if they exist, were not available for this review. There's one more check left, and it's the one that decides whether this file actually holds up. Here's the claim integrity check. Coverage position, fail. Investigation, pass. Documentation, pass. Chronology, pass. Narrative consistency, fail. Here's what this file actually teaches, regardless of which side you sit on. A denial isn't just a letter, it's a position. And every document that follows it either supports that position or quietly undermines it. Nobody in this file set out to create a contradiction. But by the time the estimate dispute showed up, the claim wasn't arguing about coverage anymore. It was arguing with itself. If you know someone sitting on a denial letter right now, send them this. Sometimes the difference between a stuck claim and a resolved one is just knowing which questions to ask. Every claim file should be able to answer 5 questions. What happened? What evidence supports that? What policy language applies? Why the decision was reached? And whether another adjuster could independently reach the same conclusion. If a claim file can't clearly explain its own decisions, someone else eventually will. This has been Claim Autopsy. I'm Scott Harris. I'll see you next time.